Hello, this is your Ride Companion tutorial. Let's get started by opening up Ride Companion. Now, the first time you install Ride Companion, you're going to be presented with a few screens just to explain some things about Ride Companion. This is your quick start screen, and it'll tell you how to get started with Ride Companion quickly. To continue, press the upper left corner arrow button or the back button on your device. The next screen just gives you a brief history of Ride Companion and tells you how Ride Companion works. To continue, press the forward button in the bottom right corner of your screen. This is the privacy policy for Ride Companion. It'll explain how Ride Companion handles your information, and it'll also explain it'll also explain the permissions Ride Companion requests and how Ride Companion works. So in the lower right corner, press that button again, and we'll continue. This is the screen that tells you what's new with Ride Companion. Some of the stuff is a little bit older, some of the stuff is new. It'll tell you about some of the greatest features in Ride Companion. Press the check mark in the lower right corner, and we are done. After that, you're presented with this menu. You can see there's nothing much on it right now. And the reason for that is because you have to grant some permissions. So we're going to swipe the menu away, and these are all the permissions that Ride Companion requires. Some of them are granted on the bottom, and some of them are not granted on the top. It says permissions still needed. All these permissions are needed before Ride Companion will work. So the first one is your locations permissions. These permissions are needed so Ride Companion can be aware of your location. It needs this so it can track your trip history while driving for rideshare services. So we're going to grant that permission. We're going to say allow all the time. That way it's able to work in the background. So Ride Companion doesn't have to be in the foreground in order to use your location. Get accounts. Ride Companion needs your account information so it can create an account with Ride Companion. All it's looking for is email addresses that are already on your device. So if you click on that and click allow, it's going to present you with all the email addresses on your device. Okay, so I'm going to click on my email address. I'm going to press OK, and then it creates an account using your email address, and that's what you want. It does that every time you install Ride Companion. It doesn't recreate an account, but it also get your account information automatically that way. Bind accessibility services. So this is how Ride Companion works. The Bind accessibility service allows Ride Companion to see what is visible on your screen, and allows it to know what's visible on your screen. So in order for Ride Companion to work, it has to know what's visible on your screen. So when Uber's in the foreground, it can find that go online button, or it can see what text is on the screen to determine if this is a trip request or if you're on a trip or whatever it needs to be aware of what's happening in Uber at the time. So we're going to give it that permission, and then you're going to, with this permission, it's a special permission, so it goes to an accessibility screen, and then you have to find the Ride Companion automation service. On some devices, such as Samsung devices, you might have to go through and find the accessibility screen, but it'll get you to the general area, and then you have to find accessibility by scrolling down, and then find the service. It's called Ride Companion Automation Service. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to turn that on. This is going to give you the general description from Android. We're going to say allow, and then once that's granted, it goes back to Ride Companion. You press the check mark, you're back on the permission screens, and these are the remaining permissions you still need. So it says read external storage and write external storage. These permissions are one and the same. It allows Ride Companion to read and write to the storage on your device. This is needed so we can back up trip history and expense data later on. So we're going to give that permission to Ride Companion. Now it says by notification listener. With this permission, we're going to allow it. Let me go back to Ride Companion. With the by notification listener service, it allows Ride Companion to read the notifications that pop up on your device. And it needs that permission so it knows when Uber or Lyft or Postmates posts a trip request or a request in the background. So every time Uber posts a trip request and it's not in the foreground, it posts a notification saying so. Ride Companion wants to be able to read that so it knows when those trip requests come in so that it can switch back to Uber or Lyft or whoever posted the request. And now you can scroll down and see all their permissions are in gray. That means they've been granted, everything's good, Ride Companion's ready to work. So we can press the back button to get started, and we're going to end up on the home screen. Once we're on the home screen, you're going to see the map, and this is what your current location. It'll be centered on your current location. And at the top of the screen, you're going to see a 3-button menu button. And this is on every screen, and it's like, these are just quick options that you might need. The first option is force stop. So if you have Ride Companion activated and something starts going awry, it's not working right for whatever reason, it gets out of sequence or something happens that Ride Companion can't figure out, or Uber or Lyft posts an update and Ride Companion wasn't updated to work with that yet, and it just goes bananas. You press the force stop button, and what that does is it just stops the automation service in its tracks. No more automation will come from Ride Companion. So you might have to go back to Uber and Lyft and deactivate them, but if you force stop Ride Companion, it'll prevent Ride Companion from doing anything further automatically. Below that is exit button. That's just to exit Ride Companion. That's all that does. The menu button, that's to display the Ride Companion menu. Okay, it's now on the left. You can see I have a ton more options here because all the permissions are granted. Below that, it says home screen help. So there's going to be a special help screen for every individual screen you're on now. And it's just to break down the help a little bit easier, a little bit more organized way so you can read it easier and find what you really want to find quickly. And then below that is the privacy policy. That's the same privacy policy from before. And that's just so you have a quick access to that and you can actually read it if you want to. Okay, so now we're back on the home screen again, and we'll start explaining that. Something new to Ride Companion is this top black box. If you've used Ride Companion for Android Auto in the past, you've seen this before, but now it's part of regular Ride Companion. I really liked it. So in this top box here, this is your status bar. It says not activated while online or something like that. It's going to give whatever status Ride Companion last recognized in one of the rideshare apps. So if you're online with Uber, it might say waiting for request, or it might say trip request received or something like that. In the bottom left box, it says 0 trips. That's how many trips you've given today using Ride Companion and how many trips Ride Companion has processed. If I click on that, it's going to go to the trip history screen, and you'll be able to see that in a more organized and broken down way. Right now there's no trip history because I just installed the app. Next to that, in the middle, it says credits 25. That's how many credits you have available in your wallet, or how many credits are available for Ride Companion to use. Credits are used by Ride Companion to process trips. So every time a trip request comes in, a credit is deducted. Okay, I do this so I can keep Ride Companion free. You earn credits by either purchasing them or watching commercials, and we'll get into that in a minute. Next to the credits box is the 0 minutes. That's how many minutes you've been online with Ride Companion. It says 0 minutes. I haven't been online yet since I installed the app, and that's how many minutes today. So that resets at midnight on your device. In the bottom left corner of the map, you're going to see a location button, a gas pump, and a map with a pin on it button. These are just quick access buttons. On the location button, you're going to see a green circle around it. That means that Ride Companion will keep the map centered on your location. You can see if I swipe the map away, after a couple of seconds, it's going to go right back to my location. It updates your location every couple of seconds. If I press that button, the green circle goes away. I can just move around the map however I want. I can zoom in and out however I want. And I can just focus it wherever I want. I'm going to refocus on my location. Above that is the gas pump. Here is where you can find gas pump prices. Using this feature also uses credits. So it's going to deduct 1 credit every time you look up gas prices. This is necessary so that people aren't constantly looking for gas prices. My server can't handle a ton of requests, so we try and limit that with using credits. So I press OK. We go, we want to look up regular gas prices. It might take a minute for the server to search for them, but it gets them. It's not too long. And then you can see that these are all the gas stations around my area. And if I click on one of those gas pumps, it's going to give me the gas station information. It might not have gas prices for every gas station. That's really dependent on the gas station and if they posted prices. And there'll also be a star rating, and that's from customers at the gas station. You can see these gas prices are pretty accurate. It's usually updated daily. The star ratings are updated as they're posted. And then if you want to navigate to that gas station, you can see the little Google Map navigation buttons on the bottom. So that's that one. Above the gas pump button is your trip history button. And if I click on the little buttons next to today, yesterday, this month, or this year, it's going to tell me how many trips I've given according to that time period. So today, this month, it says I've given 0 trips for all of those. And that's just because I haven't built any trip history yet with Ride Companion. But once I start building trip history, once I activate Ride Companion and it's processing trips, it's going to start populating those. So in the bottom left corner, this is your new start button. It's the green circle with the triangle in the middle. It looks like a play button. If you press that, it's going to activate Ride Companion. To the right of that, you'll see I call this the split screen button. It looks like 2 windows. If you press on this, it's going to open up 2 of your rideshare apps. It's going to open up your primary app first, and then it'll open up your a second rideshare app after that. So if I click on that, it's going to put your device in a split screen mode. This is an experimental feature. It's kind of tricky sometimes, and it doesn't always work the best. You can see my device is in split screen mode right now, but for some reason it just didn't work. It didn't open up the other app. But to turn it off, you just press it again. You can go back to Ride Companion. We'll try it again here. And you can see it all automated, the split screen service. It works. Sometimes it's a little bit finicky. And we'll just turn it off by pressing that, and then we'll go back to Ride Companion again. So that's that one. It's useful if you just want a quick shortcut to split screen. Then next to that are the shortcuts to the apps. These are just launcher buttons. So if you want to go to Uber, Lyft, or Postmates, you can just press on those and it's going to open those apps. Okay. Around the launcher buttons, you're going to see a white circle a gray circle or a green circle, or a white circle, a red circle, or a green circle. A white circle means it's enabled through the app, so that means a ride companion is going to try and work with it. If there's a red circle, that means it's disabled. Ride companion won't try and work with it. If you see a green circle, that means that app is currently online and waiting for a request. And we'll show you that in a minute. So now let's go to the menu and let's look at our account screen. So this is your account screen. You can see that, you have your email address, your password, you type that in, your username, and your confirmation code. Typing in those numbers will allow you to log into your account. If this is your first time using Ride Companion, skip the confirmation code, type in login, and if you don't have an account already, it'll send you an email with your account information. It'll send you a password and a confirmation code. It's important to remember both of those because you're going to need them to log in. Once you're logged into your account, back out of the account screen and then go right back into the account screen, and then it's going to populate some data in the bottom. It says credits available in your wallet. It says 24. These are the credits that are available to Ride Companion to use. Below that, it says credits available in your account. These are the credits available in your online account. Okay, so say you built up a whole bunch of credits by watching commercials or your purchase credits through the in-app purchases, and you want to uninstall Ride Companion and put it on a different device. You can deposit those credits into your Ride Companion account and then withdraw them later at a later time. In order to deposit credits, you have to make a purchase first, and that's just a measure I came up with so that people weren't just watching a ton of commercials, putting them in their account, and then moving to a different device and giving them to a friend or whatever. So you purchase credits now. And that'll enable a deposit button. It says deposit credits. So if I want to withdraw some credits, I press the withdraw button. Say I want 25 credits out of my account for the day. It says you now have 49 credits. I have 49 credits available in my wallet for Ride Companion to use. This number down here doesn't always update right away. But if you back out of your account screen and go back into it, it'll update. See, now it says you have 529 credits available in your account. And that won't update right away just because I don't want a bunch of requests going to my servers constantly. So you just have to back out of your account and back into your account screen, and it's gonna check that again. And then below that, if you want to deposit credits, same thing. 25 credits I'm going to type in. That's going to take it out of your wallet, put it in your account. If I back out of the account screen, go back into it, you can see they're right back in there, 554. So if I want to purchase credits, I can press the purchase button. And you're going to see that it says all different options for purchasing credits. These are the prices and the amount of credits you get for purchasing them. If you purchase the gold standard, you become a gold member, and that's a lifetime membership that doesn't expire. And with gold members, you won't have credits deducted for Ride Companion processing trips. If you want to watch a commercial, you can press the watch commercial button and you'll earn some credits. That's the free option for Ride Companion. That button's available on your account screen only. So we can back out of the account screen. We'll go back in there real quick. And you can see that there's also an account help button. So if you forget any of this stuff, you can just quick go through this and I'll explain it to you. So we'll go out of the account screen. We'll go down to filters. And this is the same as in the old Ride Companion. You can see your app module selection at the top. By selecting the app modules, you can cycle through and set those apps up how you want them to be filtered out through Ride Companion. These are for your trip requests to be filtered out. If there's no icons populated up here, either you don't have the app installed, or Ride Companion may not have received the data to work with it. So you can press the refresh button there. It's going to download the data again, and it's going to try and populate these. If it works, this should be populated. That means if it had a connection. Now this works with Google servers. So if Google servers are working, which they usually are, this will work fine. And there's usually not a problem, but every once in a while you get a hiccup and it doesn't work. You just have to press the refresh button and it'll refresh the modules. So clicking on these buttons, you're able to set individual settings for each app. So if you're a Lyft driver, you're going to have a Lyft button there. You press on that and you can enable Lyft to work with Ride Companion. If you're a Postmates driver, you can enable Postmates Fleet or disable it. I don't drive for Postmates Fleet very often, so I'm going to keep it disabled. Or I would keep it disabled. I'll keep Lyft driver enabled and I'll keep Uber enabled. Now you can see the default settings here. Uber is enabled and it says the primary app. The primary app is the app that will be kept in the foreground while waiting for requests. So once it cycles through, it gets all the apps online. It's going to go back to your primary app. I prefer to keep Uber as my primary app because Uber posts a big overlay on your screen when a trip request comes in if it's not in the foreground. And that'll block other apps from you being able to use other apps until you accept that trip request or you decline the trip request, which is okay, but I don't like it. So I keep Uber as my primary app. I just keep that one in the foreground. Below that, it says Surge Focus. This feature is a feature that keeps your current surging app online. So if your last trip request had a surge premium or was a prime time trip in Uber or Lyft, then it'll keep that app online and it will not put the other apps online so that you don't miss any other surging trips. Now after 10 minutes, if you don't receive another trip request, Surge Focus turns off and then it will bring the other apps online. But if you have Surge Focus on, it'll be looking for surge trips. Below that it says ignore trips if I'm going faster than the speed. So if, say you're traveling down the highway at 80 miles an hour or 150 miles an hour, you don't want to receive a trip request. You don't want Ride Companion to do anything. You're trying to get to the airport fast so you can get in the airport queue. Something like that. So if I'm going, I can set this so if I'm going over 90 miles an hour, Ride Companion says, hey, I'm going 90 miles an hour. I don't want to accept any requests now. Sometimes when you get a request, you might be past your exit before the trip request is even accepted. Okay, and that's just the way it works. Sometimes you're just passing up the exit, you get a trip request that wants you to take that exit. Okay, we don't want that. So if you're going over 50, 60 miles an hour on the expressway, it's probably best to ignore those trips. Those trip requests. Below that says minimum customer rating. So if you don't want to get a bunch of crappy customers, normally if a customer has a rating below 3, they're probably a pretty lousy customer. So I tend to stay away from customers with a customer rating of 3. I'm not going to take them. Not even going to consider it. I'm going to make Ride Companion say, nope, I don't want that request. Below that, it says maximum distance to customer. So with Lyft, they now pay you for the time it takes to get to your customer. Okay, that's kind of new. But with Uber, they don't. Okay, so with Uber, I don't want to travel more than 10 minutes to go pick somebody up because that's time I'm not getting paid for. So if I got to travel more than 10 minutes to go pick somebody up, or 10 miles, I'm not going to accept that trip. That's 10 miles. That's a lot of, that's potentially going to take me like 20 minutes in Milwaukee. Maximum time to customer. This is in minutes. Okay, I'm going to set that for 10 minutes. I don't want to drive more than 10 minutes to go pick somebody up. Below that, say Uber's surging like crazy. It's a big event, downtown Milwaukee. I'm going to set the surge value to 2.2. So in Uber, that means the dollar value in surge, okay, or whatever their new scheme is with the surge values. It doesn't happen in Milwaukee very often, but I've seen it to where it says like $5 or plus $5. That's what it's looking for, okay? So if it says like plus 5.5 or something like that for your trip request on your trip request screen, it would accept that trip if I have it set at 5. If I have it set at plus 1 or 1.0, it's going to look for that plus 1 in that trip request. If it doesn't see it, it won't accept the trip. Okay, below that it says accept long trips. So say you're winding down at the end of the night, you don't want to accept any long trips, something that's going to take more than 45 minutes. Okay, in your trip request screen, it'll always tell you plus 45 minutes or more than 45 minutes or something, or a long trip. Ride Companion can recognize that. Okay, so I like to accept those trips because those are the most valuable trips, but some people don't. So they can uncheck that, and Ride Companion will ignore those trips. It won't prevent them from coming in, but it will ignore them. Or you can say only accept long trips. So it's going to ignore every single trip that isn't a long trip now. You don't want that. Okay, some people requested this feature, but you don't want to ignore short trips. Okay, those can be pretty profitable too. The really quick, fast trips are probably where you're going to make your most money. Because you can rack up a lot of those in an hour. If you're just doing 10-minute trips, those might only be worth $5. You can only complete 2 10-minute trips in an hour because it's 10 minutes to pick the customer up and then 10 minutes to drop them off. So generally, I keep that one unchecked. Allow automated trip accepts. So if you want Ride Companion to automatically accept trips, you check this button. If you don't, you uncheck it. And then all that's going to do is keep Ride Companion from pressing the accept button. It'll still automate everything. It'll wait for you to accept the trip. Accept queued trips. So if a trip comes in while you're traveling on another trip, Ride Companion has the ability to filter out those trips as well. And then below that is the available services. So if you're an UberX driver, or Uber Taxi, or Uber Flash, or one of these categories, you can check all of them, or you can choose to check the ones you don't want. Uncheck them. So if you don't want to accept Uber pool trips, uncheck it. If you're a black driver and you don't want to take the X trips, uncheck it. These are all just filters. So Ride Companion will still receive requests, but it won't automatically accept trips if they don't fit within your filter parameters. And again, if you need help with your filters, there's a help screen for that. All right. So now, let's go to your trips. First, let's go back to settings. Okay, so you can see the notifications enabled, sounds enabled. So this is if you want notification sounds. So when Ride Companion posts a notification, you can either have the sounds on or the sound off. It's the ding that happens when you get a notification. Use with voice assistants. So if you want to use a voice assistant such as Google Assistant, Bixby, or Dragon Naturally Speaking, or one of the popular voice assistant apps, Ride Companion is able to work with those as long as it displays on your phone screen. Again, it's just reading the phone screen and figuring out what your command was. So you can use that with Google Assistant, and then what you can do is use your Google command and then say activate ride companion, and then it'll activate ride companion, or deactivate ride companion and it'll deactivate it. And that's after you say your trigger command for your assistant app. Reminders. Reminders is a feature that just reminds you to go online with Ride Companion whenever you go online with, say, Uber or Lyft. Okay, if you don't want them, just uncheck it. What that does, it would post a notification telling you to go online with Ride Companion when you go online with Uber or Lyft. It's just so you don't forget, so Ride Companion will still track your trip history. RC for Android Auto. So here's a feature that prevents the black screen on Android Auto. So if you have a car with Android Auto in it and you plug in your device, Android posts a big black screen on top of everything on your screen, and you have to swipe it away in order to get out of it. If you press a home button, it pops back up. It's pretty much to try and prevent you from using your device while in your car. It's very annoying. I don't like it. So I always choose to say to let the Ride Companion Android Auto pop up. And that's just pretty much the Ride Companion's home screen with a few special features for Android Auto. And that's just to prevent that black screen from popping up, so I can easily get out of it or open other apps or use Ride Companion while I'm in the car. Bluetooth Discovery. This is a feature that will activate Ride Companion whenever you're connected to certain Bluetooth devices and plugged in. Your device is plugged in and charging. So if I'm in my car and I'm connected via Bluetooth to my car, I want Ride Companion to automatically activate. If I don't, I uncheck that. I don't use that feature, but it was a requested feature. So below that, you see trip and expense data. There's a backup button, a restore button, and a show button. Okay, because I backed up my trip history prior to uninstalling Ride Companion. Now I reinstalled Ride Companion and I want to restore it. So I press the restore button. It restored from external storage. So your external storage is still on your device, but it's in a different section of memory so that it doesn't get deleted when you uninstall Ride Companion. If you're going to uninstall Ride Companion for some reason, you want to back up your trip history. That way it stays on your device and it's always there. You don't want to lose it. You should probably back that up daily. And that's going to back it up into a folder in your external storage. If you want to see that data on your device, just press the show button. And that's going to bring you to the folder where the trip history and expense data is stored. You can see it right here. These are the folders. This is Solid Explorer reviewing this in. If you don't have a file manager on your device, it may not be able to open this up. I recommend using Solid Explorer. And you can see this is the data. It's a bunch of encoded mumbo jumbo in those files, but it's the data Ride Companion uses to keep track of your trip history and expense data that you enter into Ride Companion. I'll switch back to Ride Companion. So that's your settings screen. Now that we restored your trip history, we have some data. You see that I don't have any trip history for today, yesterday, or this month. I have 3 trips this year. Okay, if I scroll down and I click on these icons, it'll give me a quick summary of that trip. Okay, so this customer's name was Quentin. His rating was 5 stars. He's a great customer. Probably the best customer. He's great, awesome, fantastic. He's got 5 stars. Distance, 7.5 miles. That's the distance from the time the trip was requested until the time I dropped Quentin off. It says 7.52 miles. Extremely accurate, and that's correct. The duration is the time from the time the trip was requested until I dropped him off. 16 minutes and 24 seconds. Pretty good. There was no surge value. It says NA. The trip value is $7.99. That's the fare. It's what Quentin paid. It's not what I earned, that's what he paid. Of course, Lyft skimmed some off the top of that, probably a couple of bucks. And then the service was Lyft. It was a regular Lyft trip. It wasn't Lyft line or anything like that. And then it just tells you the date and time the trip was requested. September 17th, 2009 at 5 a.m. I arrived to pick Quentin up at 5:54, and I dropped him off at 6:05. So you can see the total trip was about 16 minutes. And I was actually on the trip for about 11 minutes. It does the same with Uber. It's not always able to grab trip values in either app. You can see on this trip here, it did not grab the trip value. That's because it doesn't always show up in time for Ride Companion to catch it. But when it does, it's a pretty cool feature. It works. Now you can see in this trip request it says arrived in 1969, and it's not true. We didn't travel back in time. What happened is Ride Companion didn't recognize that we arrived for the trip, probably because the trip was canceled before I got there. So then we'll go into a trip history screen, and we'll see a report. So this report is generated off of the trip data and expense data that you entered. So say you purchase something for your ride share business. Okay, you purchased it yesterday. Say, press the 18th in the calendar. If I purchased it at say 3:15 p.m. Okay, say I bought some gas or parking fee or licensing fee or permit fee. These are all things that are tax deductible, so you want to keep track of them. So I'm going to say I did some upholstery cleaning. Somebody puked in my car. It cost me about $15 to do myself. I'm going to set the location where it happened. I can zoom this out, I can zoom this in on the road, whatever. I'm going to zoom in on my location. And I'm going to save it. Okay, and it now shows up in the report, upholstery cleaning, $15. If I click on it, it shows the location where it happened. It tells me how much, time and date. I'm also able to edit that. Say I made a mistake, say I want it to be $15.75. It updates the price. Total cost for expenses are right there. All these are editable, deletable, whatever. Below that is your trip history. These are all your trips for this time period here. This is total trips that it shows first. If you click on one of these trips in the report, it's going to show it on a map. The yellow pin is where the trip was requested. Or received. That's where you were when it was received. This is where you picked up the customer. And this is where you dropped them off. If you want to see it on the big map, you press the map icon in the lower right corner of the information box. And there you go. We can go back to the trip history. We can do that for the Uber trip. Same thing here. I click on this button here. It's going to show me my Uber trip. You can see I got a request and an end. It didn't find the arrive. It didn't recognize when I arrived for whatever reason. It shows the exact route I took to pick up the customer. This is probably where I arrived right here. I just didn't pick that out for some reason with the Uber app. This trip happened a long time ago, so I'm assuming this Uber updated its app and Ride Companion didn't update in time before this trip was collected. But you can go back in the trip history. You can see these here. If I click on one, I can choose to delete that trip out of the history if I want. And that's it. A new feature for Ride Companion is you're able to export this into an Excel file. So if I click on this Excel icon up here, it's going to give me an option to open it in Excel or with Google Sheets or whatever spreadsheet app you have on your device. So I'm going to open it up in Google Sheets. It's going to take that report, it's going to format it into an XLSX file, which is a spreadsheet format, and then it's going to break it down into sheets. You have your expenses on one sheet, Uber driver on another sheet, and these are your trips, your trip data, customer name, trip accepted. It's kind of hard to read on an Android device, but on your home device or home computer or something like that, this is really handy. And then if I want to save this Excel form or this Excel file, you have to save it according to however the app works. So I would share and export in this one, and then I can save it as something, or I can print it or whatever. Go back to Ride Companion. Now if I just want to print this exact report here, I can press the print button, select my printer wherever I want it to go. I don't have a printer set up on my phone, but if you do, you're able to print it right from your phone to your printer, or you can save it to a PDF. Okay, and there's also a help here, of course, for your trip history. This explains all of that in case you forget. If you want to add an expense, that's your add expense button. If I want to break this report down, say I only want Uber trips for all trips. This is all my Uber trips I've given that I have saved on my device. If I only want Lyft trips, so I'm going to show Lyft trips. If I only want Lyft trips this year, it's only going to show Lyft trips from this year. If I only want Lyft trips from this month, I don't have any, it's not going to show them. But it's also going to break down my expenses for this month. Expenses for today. Oops, today. There aren't any. All trips, all expenses. And there we have it, folks. This month. Okay, so I got the expenses for this month. Yesterday. This year. And there we have it, folks. That is your trip history screen. And then you can see below here, here's the help. In here, this is all the help rolled into one. Okay, so we got your video tutorial button at the top. How to add quick settings. The quick settings are the little buttons at the top here. Ride Companion has some of those you can add in there. If you follow the help there, it'll show you how to do that. In order for Lyft to work, there's a modified version of Lyft on the Ride Companion Updates website. You'll get a little updated button here every time there's an update for it. It was last updated on 12/17 as of right now. If I click on that, it's going to tell you about it. It's going to give you a button to click, and it's going to bring you to the website to download it. So I click on that button. You read all this stuff here. There's a button right here that you click to download it. Once you download the modified version of Lyft, Lyft Driver will work perfect with it, with Ride Companion. And then it just give you some tips and tricks for using Uber or Lyft or whatever app you have on your device. It says to turn off Uber notifications. Ride Companion works best when the Uber notifications aren't interfering with it. So Uber likes to have those pop-up notifications. You can disable those. And set Uber driver and Lyft for auto navigation. So when a trip request is received and accepted, it'll automatically start navigating to it. You want to allow that. And you also want it to use the in-app navigation. You don't want it to use Google Maps or Waze for navigation. Something new is this email button here in the lower right corner. If you press on that, you can request some help. You type in a message here and it'll send an email directly to me, and it'll also give me all the information I need to help you out the best. So it's going to give me some of your device information, like what device model you're using and what apps you have installed, like Lyft Driver or Uber or Postmates. It's going to look for those 3 apps only, and it's going to tell me if you have those installed only. It'll also tell me if you have the modified version of Lyft installed on your device, which is helpful to know too, because a lot of people have problems with the unmodified version of Lyft Driver from the Play Store. So that's why there's a modified version of Lyft Driver, and you need that in order for Ride Companion to work. So now we're going to activate Ride Companion, and we're going to see how this baby works. You can see the red circle around Postmates right here. That means Postmates will not activate. Uber and Lyft will activate. So if I press on the play button here, it's going to activate Ride Companion. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. So now I'm activating, it's opening Uber. It's waiting for the screen to come up. It's going online with Uber. You're online with Uber. Now it's going to Lyft. It's bringing Lyft online. Once it's online, it goes back to Uber. Okay. And now you're all online there. I have airplane mode activated on my device right now. And then when I want to bring Ride Companion offline, I can go back into Ride Companion. And you can see that the bottom bar is glowing. That means we're waiting for a request. This changed to a pause button or a stop button. I can press that. It's going to bring Uber offline. It's going to bring Lyft offline. Then whambo bambo, Ride Companion is deactivated just like that. Go back to Ride Companion. You can see everything's back to how it was. Everything's automated. Everything's easy. Ride Companion's the best. Thanks for using it. And I hope you find it valuable. Thanks.